Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'm really thankful to our esteemed panelists for joining us today in this session that focuses on the role of citizens in combating trafficking. And as you know, in previous sessions, we have been talking about the importance of awareness. It is very important that people should be aware of this issue of trafficking in persons if we really want to make any change. So I will start with Mr. Shiraz. So how local communities at the grassroots level, especially in the marginalized areas, could be involved in raising awareness and implementation of anti-trafficking laws?
Thank you very much. So let me start with this. I'm serving this force for almost 18 years. Just a couple of years ago, I was educated that human trafficking, this TIP, actually the people, the prostitutes involved in prostitution, beggary, child labor, are the victim of these crimes. Before that, due to unfortunate practices, our culture, our laws, we were so insensitive towards these topics that we could not distinguish between victims and the criminals and the accused behind these crimes. So the treatment in the past have always been like whenever any prostitution done, any child labor done, any beggars, or any action has been taken against these crimes, those victims were treated as criminals. They were brought before, they were locked up, they were brought before the courts and sent to jails. So due to these platforms, to these laws, we have been sensitized that these people should be treated as victims and they should not be like prosecuted. And this cruel indifference, it actually comes from the society. I don't blame that only police is responsible for this or other criminal justice system is also treating like this. Whole society, citizens, everybody is equally responsible for this. And through this education now, through media, especially social media, the citizens are now well aware of these things. But there's a difference of education among the society. For right now, we have only covered though the educated people or those, you can say that middle class people are just aware of these things. The victims of these crimes are actually from the lower class, most of them. I have encountered myself many of such cases. I have seen most of them or almost everybody, the victim are from lower class, very poor families. So they need to be educated too. The day when police will get a complaint from some victim, some poor lady that she is being forced for prostitution, or some poor boy who says that he is being forced for the child labor, that will be our real success. For this, society must be involved. We encountered people, I'm from Karachi, I live there, anyone from Karachi, I'm from Lahore. At every signal, at every crossroad, we find beggars, small kids begging there. Now it's our responsibility to stop the car, ask them why are they begging, who is responsible for them, or who's making them to beg here. So these programs, they should be multiplied now. Not only the government servants or politicians, common people should also be included in these. A couple of days ago, there was Karachi Literature Festival in Karachi, and I think such platforms will be more helpful to involve communities, to involve people, to educate them. I have many connections in interior scene, like many relatives, they are poor people. When I go there, I'm going to tell them, if you find any person who's being victimized like this, they should make voice for them, they should complain about them, and I believe through this involvement, we can make some changes. Thank you.
And as you mentioned, so we can say that the involvement of local community is a prerequisite for any meaningful intervention. So Israr Saab, you are working as a director, AHS in FIA, and we know in Pakistan, FIA is the lead agency to counter trafficking in persons. So would you briefly share with us that to what extent are existing legislation like trafficking in persons law or the rules, they encourage the participation of civil society?
First of all, only few minutes I will try to explain what is actually trafficking, and sometimes we intermix trafficking with the smuggling of migrants. First and the foremost thing is when somebody is employed, whether it's a male, female, child, if he is employed for bonded labor or for sexual entertainment or sexual exploitation, then that falls under the category of trafficking. So to deal with the trafficking, we have the Trafficking in Person Act 2018. Under this act, if anybody who is even a child, but if he has consented, whether his parents have consented to be to get him employed at somewhere, even then it will constitute an offense. So the first thing is that in case of when somebody is trafficked, when he is treated as a victim, his consent is totally deemed immaterial. So everybody should know about this. And the most of the things I have noticed during since we are also working on the TIP report, and we also gather data from all over Pakistan, from FIA as well as other, not only the provincial police, but also from other departments as well, which includes the prosecutions, investigations, as well as the victim services provided. From that data, we come to know there's still a lot of work needs to be done to implement those laws. For example, I have seen many cases in which the TIP sections, trafficking in person sections have not been applied in the FIRs. And because of those sections, the most of the offenders, they take benefit of them. Secondly, when we try to apply those laws, the level of investigations, that is sometimes not up to the mark, and subsequently the prosecutions and convictions, when we come across the results, they are not much helpful. But since we are continuously engaged in this process, continuously engaged in awareness campaigns, continuously engaged in the capacity building of not only the FIA investigators, rather all the police involved in the investigations and prosecutions of such cases, we are witnessing a little bit change, but still I think a lot work needs to be done. And for that purpose, the other thing important is we need to create an awareness, because as far as my impression is that most of the people, when you even go out in some good place, you will see there are many child, especially the girl child, who are employed very well off families for the care of their children, for the look after of their houses. You will see, and even some educated people have employed them. Most probably they are not aware of the repercussions of this act. So we need to have an awareness, not only for 1 day or 2 days or for 1 week. We need to continue a relentless effort to create an awareness among the society, so that the people who can afford a girl child as an employee, they don't employ them, number one. And the number two is, you know very well, there are certain sections of our society who are extremely poor, and definitely they are also not educated. There is an urgent need so that we cater for their education, we cater for their employment as well, so that we can discourage this trend. And the third thing is that every one of us, if we witness any forced labor, bonded labor, sexual exploitation, FIA has a dedicated helpline. It's for the whole of the country. It is, as one of my colleagues has already mentioned, recently we have established it. We have already working to, one is 1991. It is not dedicated for trafficking, rather it can be used for cyber and all other activities. But the standalone dedicated helpline the FIA has recently inaugurated, it is 1059. We will request all of you to give wide publicity to this helpline so that if you see any victim of trafficking, whether in any part of Pakistan, in Balochistan, Sindh, KP or Punjab, you can report and that will be addressed. We have also designed an inbuilt backup system, inbuilt tracking system also. So that will be very helpful and that will help us enforce the laws as well. So it's not only one-time activity. I believe that is an ongoing process and we all need to always be vigilant, not only for these few days of the conference, but rather the whole year. If we join hands and we want to eradicate this menace, I think only then it will be possible. Merely if we focus only on law enforcement efforts, of course that is an important aspect that will be helpful, but it will not be sufficient to eradicate it. Rather we need to engage the society, NGOs, and prosecutors, investigators, police, FIA, all need to join in to eradicate such a thing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Before we move on to our next session, next question, I would welcome our next guest speaker, former Senator Seher Kamran. She's a prominent Pakistani politician and educationist. We are thankful to her for joining us today and taking out time from her schedule for this profoundly important discussion. And member-elect of the National Assembly as well. You can move on with your questions.
Okay, so thank you, Srar Saab. So just drawing upon what Srar Saab has mentioned, like he highlighted certain gray areas as well and the significance of the involvement of local communities in anti-trafficking interventions. So Faizullah Saab, in the recent legislation, that is 2018 Act of Prevention of Trafficking in Persons, now police has been given this mandate to counter trafficking at the provincial level, internal trafficking. And we know sometimes there is a trust deficit, like people, they don't want to go to police station to report their exploitation. So what do you think, so what are the challenges for the police right now with respect to the implementation of this trafficking in persons law? Do they have awareness, resources? So, I mean, what are your experiences?
Thank you very much. This is a very basic question. I have been working in Sindh Police as a DIG training, and the most repeatedly asked question is, do the police have the required knowledge to apply the new law into their FIRs? So first of all, I will start with our progress of the Sindh Police and how we have tackled this issue at our institution. What we have done, we have incorporated the new law, Trafficking in Person Law 2018, in our curriculum. So we have around, with a 4 months period, almost 10,000 officers comes to the training institutes. And they remain there for their basic promotional exams for 4 to 6 months duration. And during the time, we have made it mandatory to read this trafficking in person law. As far as our first part is concerned, I joined service 20 years ago, and at that point of time, we knew that when somebody crosses the international border, that is a trafficking. But when I joined different courses and I have multiple studies during my career, I come to know that trafficking can also be internal. And this is because this is the game of lack of resources and an inequitable distribution of resources across the country. The people like to shift, migrate, or make their to make their livings better, they traffic themselves, and there are certain criminal elements, they make a use of it and they take a benefit of it. So it was an international realization that if somebody can be trafficked locally, then he can be a victim of the international trafficking. So when I had certain international exposures, I come to know that the victim of the international trafficking is not, he's not a culprit, he's a victim. So you have to provide him the security, safety, and especially in this 21st century where we have the cyber harassment and that kind of thing, that the people living abroad, they can force you, they can harass you, and they can put a negative impact on your family and your relationship. So it is indeed a very important point that whether the police now in Pakistan, have they understood the significance of this crime, which have very multidimensional aspects. I think we are in the transformation phase. Still, we are struggling to apprise and sensitize our constables and the people who are at front line to register proper FIRs and incorporate, as Mr. Detho was here in saying, that we have to sensitize him to really apply the proper section of law so the law could take its course and we can punish the accused. But as I told you earlier, that we have the commendable thing is that we have made it a part of our curriculum. So I think this is a good step.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Seher, since you are a parliamentarian as well, and we are here talking about the involvement of citizens in combating trafficking in persons. So we know parliamentarians, they are basically elected by the people and they are representative of their communities. So what do you think, so what role parliamentarians can play to empower local communities?
Thank you foremost. My apologies for coming late, but exactly it was none of my fault. PSL. I was stuck in the traffic because there was a route. Okay, yes, we have a responsibility. The responsibility of the parliamentarian is legislation. And this issue has to be addressed by the legislation, which was, I would like to mention here, that Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari took some very serious measures, and also this law was, the National Action Plan was amended for the prevention of trafficking in persons, and Pakistan's status was also upgraded. But the main issue in our country is implementation. So if you would ask me what is the responsibility of the citizens, so I would say education, education, education. That is the only answer. कि कितने vigilant हैं हम, कितनी awareness है society में, और किस तरीके से we can play our role to stay vigilant, to notice if there is anything which is suspicious, if something happening in our neighborhood and we are not closing our eyes. This is very important. और मेरी something which is very close to my heart, मैं कहूँगी we all have a responsibility to make sure that there are no child marriages, because child marriages is also one of the core issue, where exactly I believe the girls have been deprived of their rights and they are used as a bonded labor. Recently we witnessed two incidents of child maids. मैं समझती हूँ कि वो भी those were awakening for the society, कि बहुत पढ़े लिखे लोग एक जगह पर एक जज थे और दूसरी जगह पर सिंध के अंदर एक influential person who were using their influence to keep the child maids, and then those child maids were abused. They were used as a child labor, and finally that Fatma, unfortunately, she was killed. She was raped and she was killed. So these are ugly faces of our society, and we all have a responsibility. पहली बात ये कि बच्चियों की तालीम बहुत important है, कि हम अपनी गर्ल्स को एजुकेशन दें, और गर्ल्स को एजुकेशन देंगे तो मैं समझती हूँ कि फिर हमें चाइल्ड मैरिज को भी डिस्करेज करना होगा, क्योंकि दे हैव इक्वल राइट, और चाइल्ड मैरिजेस जो हैं वो उनका ये राइट ले लेती हैं. दूसरी बात ये कि अवेयरनेस इन द सोसाइटी. अगर आपको ये लगता है कि आप जा रहे हैं आपके इर्द गिर्द आपके नेबरहुड में, आप देखें कि लोगों ने जो है वो बच्चियाँ या बच्चे रखे हुए हैं, सो वी शुड immediately report, as like it has been mentioned कि उधर अब एक जो है वो हेल्पलाइन नंबर भी है. तो हमें उसके ऊपर जो है अपनी एक जिम्मेदारी इखलाकी तौर पर भी और सोशली ہمیں اس کو پورا کرنا چاہیے کہ وی نوٹس اینی سچ تھنگ which is suspicious and we see a child has been used as a labor or we see that exactly there is certain activities which are happening, ہمیں اس کو فوراً رپورٹ کرنا چاہیے. اور باقی یہ کہ سٹیزنس کو کمیونٹی لیول کے اوپر اس طرح کی ایکٹیویٹیز ہونی چاہیے. آئی ووڈ اپریشیٹ کہ ایس ایس ڈی او جس طرح سے یہ سیمینار ہے بٹ اٹ از ان دا کلوز ڈور, لیکن زیادہ ایسی جو ہے سوسائٹل لیول کے اوپر کمیونٹی لیول کے اوپر جو ہے ایکٹیویٹیز ہونی چاہیے جہاں پہ ہم اس ایشو پہ اویئرنیس کرائیں, لوگوں کو احساس ہو کہ یہ چیز غلط ہے, لوگوں کو احساس ہو کہ ہم نے خواتین کو یا بچیوں کو یا بچوں کو جو ہے وہ لیبر کے طور پر جو ہے یوز نہیں کرنا, یا کسی طریقے کی بھی ٹریفکنگ ہے اس کو ہم نے جو ہے روکنا ہے. اور مین تو یہ ہے کہ جو کور ایشوز ہیں ان کو ایڈریس کرنے کی ضرورت ہے, لائک پاورٹی, ان امپلائمنٹ, وہ اکنامیکل کنڈیشنز جو انسان کو مجبور کر دیتے ہیں کہ وہ اپنے بچوں کو, کوئی کہتا ہے کہ ہم نے اپنے بچوں کو اونٹ پہ بھیج دیا, کیوں؟ بیکاز دے سی کہ دے آر اسٹرائیونگ فار دیئر بریڈ اینڈ بٹر اینڈ دے ڈونٹ فائنڈ اینی اپرچونیٹی. پاورٹی ہے تو پھر وہ سوچتے ہیں کہ اچھا چلے بچہ باہر جائے گا وہاں سے کچھ کمائے گا, دے وڈ ناٹ فیل کہ جی اس میں کوئی جو ہے کوئی ہارم ہوگا یا اس کے فیوچر کو کوئی ڈینجر ہوں گے. تو اس اوور آل ایک کلیکٹیو رسپانسبلٹی کمیونٹی کی ہے, اور ایز اے لیجسلیٹر ڈیفینیٹلی سنس آئی وڈ بی ٹیکنگ اوتھ ایز اے MNA آن 29, تو میرے لیے ایک کور ایشو ہوگا کہ آئی وڈ ریز دس ان دا پارلیمنٹ. وی وڈ سی کہ جو آلریڈی لاز ہیں ان کی امپلیمنٹیشن کے لیے کیا کیا جائے, اور جو لوپ پولز ہیں لا کے اندر ان کو جو ہے ہم برج کریں, وہ گیپ جو ہے اس کو ہم اوور کم کریں تاکہ وی کوڈ ہیو اے سیف سوسائٹی. اور مینلی ان ایشوز کو ایڈریس کریں جو مینلی ہمارے مینیفیسٹو کا حصہ ہوتے ہیں کہ ہاؤ ٹو کمبیٹ پاورٹی, ہاؤ ٹو اوور کم دیز چیلنجز جو اکنامیکل کنڈیشنز ہیں جو کہ ایسی ایک انوائرمنٹ بناتے ہیں جس کی وجہ سے جو ہے ہم دیکھتے ہیں کہ چائلڈ ٹریفکنگ ہے, بانڈڈ لیبر ہے, یا چائلڈ اسمگلنگ ہے, یا جو ہے ہیومن ٹریفکنگ ہے, یا اور اسپیشلی خواتین کے لیے تو میں کہوں گی کہ یہ ایک ایسا جو ہے 80% آف دا وکٹمز آر وومن. تو ہمیں یہ دیکھنا ہوگا کہ کس طریقے سے ایسا کیسے ہو سکتا ہے کہ ایک ہی سوسائٹی کے اندر ہم سب رہ رہے ہوں, کہاں پہ ہماری اپنی غفلت ہے کہ وی آر ناٹ سو ویجیلنٹ کہ ہم اس چیز کو اگنور کر رہے ہیں. اور یہ ہمیں ایک اویئرنیس میں سب سے ایک چیز اور بھی کہوں گی کہ میڈیا کین پلے اے ویری امپورٹنٹ رول, کہ لیجسلیشنز ہو جاتی ہیں مگر اگر جو اسٹیٹ میڈیا اور جو پرائیویٹ چینلز ہیں جو ان کو ایک نیشنل سروس کے لیے ٹائم ایلوکیٹڈ ہے اس کے اوپر وہ لیجسلیشنز کے بارے میں بھی اویئرنیس کریٹ کریں اور اس مینس کے بارے میں بھی, اس کرائم کے بارے میں بھی, تاکہ لوگوں کو پتہ چلے کہ یہ چیز جو ہے اس کے کیا نقصانات ہیں اور کس طرح سے اپنے آپ کو پروٹیکٹ کرنا ہے. اس ہیلپ لائن کو زیادہ سے زیادہ ایڈورٹائز ہونا چاہیے تاکہ اس کو جو ہے یہ لوگوں کے علم میں ہو کہ دس از دا ہیلپ لائن دیٹ وی شوڈ یوز ٹو اسٹاپ ہیومن ٹریفکنگ. تھینک یو.
Thank you, madam. And you rightly identified that some forms of exploitation, they are deeply embedded in our social fabric. For example, as you mentioned, like child marriages or child domestic labor. So many times we don't consider as the exploitation of the rights of children. So for that, we really need to create awareness. We need to educate people. So coming back to you, Shiraz Saab, how can a citizen, if citizens want to collaborate with law enforcement agencies or civil society organizations, they really want to work for the cause of anti-trafficking, how can they collaborate with law enforcement agencies?
First of all, earlier when you were asking question from Sir Correjo, you said there are people are reluctant to go to police. Well, in my service, I have never seen a person reluctant to go to police when he's fighting with his brother or his father's land. He will pursue it to the courts and fight to his brother to his grave, but he would never let it go. So these are all priorities. People are never discouraged to come to police stations. People are never discouraged to lodge FIR or discuss these things. Another thing is police is just one part of the whole criminal justice system. The legislation is not just about police or FIA for that matter. Then we have prosecution, and then we have correction centers. And in these cases, we need rehabilitation, which is phase 2, and we must work on this. If we, like in my service career, I've seen that we used to capture beggars. We used to take them to the courts, and court were angry with us. And then we were supposed to, we had no other choice but to leave them on the streets so that they can go back and start begging again. Same was the case with prostitution. If we are like raiding some prostitution den, catching some people, we consider those prostitutes are basically rape victims. Now what is their disposal? We are going to leave them with the parents who are already involved in these crimes. There are multiple times we have mentioned Fatma Fordo case, and then this other case of judge. But what about their parents? Are Fatma Fordo parents consider the criminals culprits in this case or not? No, they are not. In case if Fatma Fordo had not been killed, she would have been returned to her parents who are already involved in this whole scenario, whole crime. So it is just, you cannot just blame that police is responsible for this whole cruelty or indifference. That's what I'm saying. Another thing you're saying, what should be the role of the citizens? Like I said, there should be now second phase. Second phase is rehabilitation of those people. Government do not have the resources. Those people, like I said, in Karachi, even Mr. Dato also mentioned that for 10 years we are listening that in Korangi they are going to make this rehabilitation center for the people. Government do not have resources. They are not going to cater the need for the need of all the people, the victims who are involved in this. And for this, citizens have to come forward. I have seen people are very philanthropist here. We are the 6th most philanthropist country in the world. They are giving a lot of charity to ED, to Selani, to other groups. I think these factors like Selani, ED, or other JDC in Karachi, they should be involved to come up some project where they should establish these rehab centers. And government with public-private partnership can work better in this. And since there are many successful examples of public-private partnerships. So I believe citizens should be involved in this through these platforms of philanthropists, and more charity is required. And I believe through this we can make some difference here.
Yes, you rightly said that public-private partnership is very important, and we talked about Selani Trust. Even in Punjab, I know, FIA, they have signed an MOU with, I think so, Allawale Trust, and they are providing, food and other services to the victims of trafficking. So, Israr Saab, as we were discussing that it's very important that civil society should be on board as well. One, government does not have, all the resources, and second, civil society, because they have roots in their local community, so perhaps they can play a vibrant role in terms of creating awareness and education. So, would you like to share with us, like, what steps FIA has taken to ensure this thing, that in various anti-trafficking interventions, local community will be there, like, for example, in terms of different committees that have been notified by FIA. Now there is representation of civil society. So what else FIA is doing to encourage participation of local community and civil society organizations?
Let me say one thing here, that every year Pakistan is required to submit a report on trafficking in persons to the US State Department. It is mandatory, and FIA is the lead agency for that. As has been explained, that FIA is dealing with the trafficking in person cases only which involve cross-border movement. For example, somebody coming in or out of country, if it crosses international border, then falls within the jurisdiction of FIA. Whereas the trafficking in person, most of the cases, they fall within the provincial jurisdictions, and provincial jurisdiction comprise the police, especially they are responsible for investigating and prosecuting the cases. This is one thing. Now, for that TIP report, it necessitates that we undertake a wide spectrum of activities which includes the capacity building not only of the FIA investigators, but all the provincial investigators as well across the 4 provinces. This is one thing, we carry out this activity. Secondly, we remain constantly in touch, so much so that every week we hold almost 2 meetings with a set of provinces, including AJK, GB, and Islamabad, on one day on Zoom, and next day we hold meeting with other set of provinces. The main purpose is to discuss the issues involved in the implementation of the TIP laws and to exchange good practices. For example, if some province, some unit has taken some good initiative, it can be replicated in other parts of the country. Thirdly, as I have told already, that we have recently launched a TIP hotline. This is helpline, sort of helpline or hotline you may call it. It's exclusively dedicated for reporting of trafficking in person cases. It is free of cost. You can dial it from any mobile number. You can dial it from landline number. So wherever you witness any trafficking incident, it's being a citizen of Pakistan. If I am witnessing, it's my duty. If you are witnessing, it's your duty. At least somebody will have to report it. Unless we all remain silent, unless we don't report such incidents, FIA or police will not come to know about it. Of course, all the provinces, child bureaus, social welfare department, women departments, all have their own helplines. But in order to facilitate the public, so that sometimes because of the local issues, some people are reluctant to report such incidents. So we therefore have taken this initiative. This is also for the general public. So awareness, capacity building, and reporting. In all these domains, FIA is working, and we are in coordination with all the social welfare departments in the Pakistan, even with leading NGOs, not only with one NGO, but leading NGOs. This time we contacted all the NGOs in Pakistan, the leading NGOs who were doing some work in child, in women protection, or some in trafficking related issues. We contacted them, we got data from them, and we have reported all those things, or all the good work that was done by those NGOs in our report. So such are initiatives, and this is exclusively, I am talking about the trafficking in person. Moreover, we issue the Red Book. In that Red Book, we have list of the most wanted traffickers across Pakistan, and we circulate to all the IGPs, Inspector Generals of Police, and to our FIA units. Even we place it on website. Moreover, we are also coordinating with international police through our NCB Interpol. If some traffickers or some persons are wanted internationally, we coordinate and we facilitate arrest of those persons. Moreover, we in international conferences or international bodies such as the UNODC, ICMPD, IOM, all these organizations and other NGOs who are involved in carrying out the trafficking in person work in Pakistan, we facilitate their work, and that's why we have been able to so far to create some sort of awareness among general public and to sensitize our law enforcement agencies that alongside other crimes, this is the most serious offense and we need to tackle it. Moreover, we are also trying to sensitize our prosecution departments and the judiciary as well, so that we all are on the same page. And when from the public there was one question, what we require from the public. The first and the foremost thing, actually when we register some cases or investigate the cases, as Madam has pointed out about the Fatima case, and there are so many other cases. The issue is sometimes we face that the tip sections are not added in those FIRs. So tip, when we try to pursue it very hard, and even then sometimes we are not successful to attracting those sections in the FIR. The problem is that at the time of the prosecution, some of the witnesses, they actually they do not turn up for the witnesses, for witnessing those cases, for testimonies. Moreover, reporting, as we will not disclose the identity, your identity to private persons, so that if you witness, if you see, if you notice any such incident, then we can request that kindly share with us. It's an ongoing process. We can't say that this time we have reached our peak or maximum we have achieved. No, every day new challenges come up and we have to pool our resources to cater for those challenges.
Thank you, sir, for sharing with us various steps that you and FIA, they have been taking to involve various stakeholders in our efforts to combat trafficking in Pakistan. Faizullah Saab, in the recent trafficking in persons report issued by the US State Department, one of the key concerns for Pakistan is its, weak referral mechanism, right? So they really have concern that in Pakistan we don't have, a proper referral mechanism so that victims of trafficking are referred to different agencies based on what they need. So what do you think? So how can we improve or strengthen our referral mechanism by involving civil society organizations?
Thank you. This question was basically relevant to FIA, and FIA has the centralized national referral mechanism. But if we go into the details, I think referral mechanism is very important. I would just like to say a few words about it. That as we discussed earlier, that in human trafficking cases, there is certain social, economic environment which is basically encircling the victim. So from the family side, maybe there must be some compulsions. He or she may be shifted, transported, migrated from one zone to another. There must be some socio-cultural issues. And like I was in America in one course where we had a discussion with the prosecutors and the police investigators. They told a very surprising point that the major exploitation of the victim starts once he reaches a new land. And he or she is exploited, saying that you have violated the law and the law enforcement will arrest you and keep you in the jail. And that is then the major portion of the exploitation starts. And even if you have crossed the border, they harass your family and friends who are at home and ask for money and other things. So if we compare this scenario in Pakistan, and as we have also, we are facing the internal trafficking in Pakistan, like we have the culture, unfortunately, that people give their children for the domestic servitude, and they get money, advance money, in lieu of their services for the 6 months or 4 months. And when they are abused or tortured, then these things comes to the notice of the law enforcement. And we have many incidents in media reported. So the point is, national referral mechanism is very important. And because they might be shifted from Punjab, they might be exploited in Sindh, they might be enslaved in Balochistan, there can be national and international connections. So right now, the FIA have the system, and they ask for the progress from the different departments, where the actually crime started, where the ingredients of crimes were committed, and as we seen in the previous session that there is quite differences of procedures in the provinces and different practices in the courts. So the national referral mechanism is very important. But if we talk about the international scenario, you see, the people trafficked from Pakistan cross boundaries of certain different countries, and they land at the final destination. And sometime, as I know that FIA have established their station in different countries in order to provide the legal support to the Pakistanis who are in different jails across the globe. So this referral mechanism is very important for the coordination and integration of the different activities which we require, not inside the Pakistan, but also at the international level. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And perhaps we also need to develop a referral mechanism at the district level as well, right? So that when such cases are reported to police.
Just to add a few points, in the international best practices, what they have done, they have joined the hands at a district level. Like in different Western countries, we have seen that the international collaboration along with the national agencies and the local police, including the social service providers, judiciary, prosecutors, all sit at the police station level and discuss the cases.
Okay, Madam Seher, you mentioned earlier, and Mr. Faizullah also talked about this, that sometimes, when we talk about trafficking of especially minors or women, sometimes immediate family members are also involved in their exploitation directly or indirectly, which really makes it a difficult task to rehabilitate them. Likewise, what we observed that in some cases of trafficking, for example, where women and girls, they are trafficked for prostitution, so we start victim blaming, right? Instead of supporting them, so no, they are doing this because they have done something wrong, so that's why this is happening to them. And we stigmatize them actually. So in such cases, they become more vulnerable to repeated exploitation, because when their own communities, or when their own families are blaming them, then where should they go, right? So what do you think, so what should we do as a society to address this issue of victim blaming with particular reference to trafficking in persons?
Yes, this is very unfortunate that usually when such cases are reported, victim blaming is a general practice. And we become so insensitive of the realities. I believe psychological treatment of the victim is very important. Family support comes first, and then also the support of the society. Here I would like to mention a law that I introduced, and which is now the Act of the Parliament, Civic Education Commission Act. And that's very important law to create awareness in the society about the Constitution and about the civic responsibilities. It is to make civic education and Constitution, teaching of civic education and Constitution mandatory part of the curriculum. It's an act of the Parliament, but unfortunately, like all other laws, it has not yet been implemented. Although I have been trying this, the law was passed in 2018, and since then I have been trying. We have conducted various seminars, many write-ups, many workshops, tried at my level at the Parliament also. But exactly implementation of laws are very important in creating an awareness in the society about the civic responsibilities, especially such sensitive issues like victim blaming. We have to deal with the victims with a lot of care. And then also I would say that the reporting mechanism has to be very safe. The treatment of the victims at the police station, at the hospitals, and during the prosecution, it has to be very safe, and their respect and their dignity has to be secured. What I feel is important, it is important that we should review all the existing laws and carefully scrutinize, see where we have duplications and where we have the loopholes, and to overcome those, and to ensure that all those issues which are not addressed in the legislation, they should be addressed. And then I believe a regular education of the society is very important, and especially there was a program. It was basically in Saudi Arabia, which I studied very carefully. It was basically to combat radicalization. But I believe the same thing, prevention, rehabilitation, and aftercare, should be made a part of the action plan. And we have to see, first of all, to prevent the crime, then rehabilitate, and then have to take the aftercare. So exactly, we should see that the victims can have a better life in future. Another, regarding poverty alleviation, I would say Benazir Income Support Program is one of the best examples that we can quote in the country, because the beneficiaries are women directly. The amount goes to the women. So that, that is a remedy to some extent to fight the economic conditions, where people can at least, manage their bread and butter, so they have a kind of security, a social security. So we have to see that exactly wherever we can contribute to the society to address the economical condition, to address the poverty, and to ensure that the constitution is implemented, specifically in the case of children and women. If children education, women's security, and again, I would say religion is one of the very important aspects. Misperceptions about the religion and illiteracy about the religion, and that is very important also. We have to fix certain standards, that who can give fatwa, who can claim to be the religious scholar, who can be at the mosque, and how we have to deal with the religion, because the misperceptions that I see here create such conditions where especially the girls and the women, they have been made victim. So we have to see that the society has to play a role in this also. It's a very sensitive subject, because religion, specifically when I was moving the child marriage restraint bill, I faced a lot of pressures and a lot of threats. So that is only because I think we have lack of education on religion, and we create our own perceptions, we create our own narrative. It's not related here, but I would like to quote the recent case that happened in Lahore, where a woman was subject to torture or blasphemy charges because she was wearing a dress. That was on that dress, it was written hallu, hallu, which means beautiful, because those were just the calligraphic designs. So this is religious blindness, where we don't have education. So education is must, and especially girls who are made victim because of these misperceptions, we have to address that also. Thank you.